When she planted Caitlin Clark squarely into the wall, the collision echoed like thunder across the court. One frame frozen in sports history and replayed 1,000 times. But beneath that explosive moment lay a clash of wills, ignited by last season's record-setting triple-double and fueled by a target the entire Eastern Conference had painted on Clark's back. This wasn't just a hard foul. It was the opening salvo in a battle woven from history, pride, and a rookie's defiant spirit. If all you saw was the impact, you missed the half-told story. And it's that deeper narrative we're about to uncover. Flashback to July 6, 2024. Under the bright lights of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, rookie Caitlin Clark didn't just show up. She rewrote history. Facing the league-leading Liberty, Clark poured in 19 points, hauled down 12 rebounds, and dished out 13 assists to become the first rookie ever to post a triple-double in the WNBA. The arena erupted the moment she grabbed her 10th board early in the fourth quarter, freezing Liberty fans in their tracks and igniting Fever faithful into a frenzy. That night's landmark performance didn't just secure an 83-78 win, it threw a bullseye on her back and announced to the entire Eastern Conference that Clark was a force to be reckoned with. But that was merely the opening act. Tonight's rematch would prove whether her historic past would serve as armor or paint a target she couldn't escape. Tonight's tip-off was more than another game. It was a crossroads of legacies. On one side stood New York, the reigning 2024 champions, storming through the Commissioner's Cup with an undefeated 8-0 start and leading the league in points, blocks, steals, and three-point percentage. Across the court stood Indiana, still reeling from a 2-3 stretch without their star and desperate to validate their meteoric rise as more than a one-hit wonder. The Fever season hung in the balance. A signature win here would cement their place among the elite, while a loss would reinforce lingering doubts. And with Clark back in the lineup, averaging 19.0 points, 9.3 assists, and 6.0 rebounds in her 4 games this season, the stakes couldn't have been higher. This was veteran savvy versus rookie firepower, a grudge match fueled by history, pride, and raw ambition. But the real fireworks would erupt the moment the ball left their hands. Opening salvo, pace, precision, and a brewing storm. The ball was barely airborne before New York sketched its first masterpiece. Layers of staggered screens unraveled Indiana's shell, and Jonquel Jones rumbled down the lane untouched, finishing a Sabrina-threaded pass so clean the net hardly twitched. Caitlin Clark answered in kind, one dribble into a high pick-and-roll with Aaliyah Boston, a patient pause to bait the weak side help, then a feather-soft lob that Boston hammered home. Score for score, the rivals traded brilliance. Ionescu curled off a pin down for another Jones bucket. Boston countered with a crafty fake handoff floater. Brianna Stewart rose from mid-range, found her rhythm, and Clark immediately replied by whipping a full-court laser to Kelsey Mitchell in stride, a 90-foot reminder of why defenders can never nap on her vision. Moments later, Clark absorbed Stewart's contact in the lane, banked in an N1, and on the very next possession delivered a no-look bounce pass to Boston for her 4th dime, while 5 minutes still glowed on the clock. By the end of a breathless first quarter, the Liberty's surgical execution met a rookie's fearless orchestration, and the scoreboard read New York 30, Indiana 29. Only a single point separating composure from volatility. But crisp plays were about to give way to chaos, and the night's first collision was still lurking just beyond the baseline. Section 5. Momentum swings and star duels. Natasha Cloud crashed into the spotlight like a summer storm. One moment she was threading a perfect lob to Jonquel Jones. The next she waved off every teammate, stepped into open space, and splashed a 3, then blew a playful kiss at the defender who left her unguarded. Seconds later, she repeated the dose, ripped a lazy pass from Clark, and uncorked a full-court feed that sent Sabrina Ionescu sprawling through contact for an and-1. In the span of 90 seconds, Cloud piled up 8 points, a steal, and an assist, flipping a one-possession duel into a Liberty surge that rattled the Fever bench. Pundits were already replaying her glancing hip check on Clark, arguing whether the league would review it for unnecessary contact. Yet while Cloud basked in the roar, Clark quietly kept the Fever breathing, slipping another no-look dime to Aaliyah Boston for assist number 7, then number 8, dissecting New York's defense, even as the deficit crept wider. Ionescu answered with icy precision, curling into a mid-range jumper, drilling a transition three, and draining free throws that turned boos into stunned silence. For every Fever counterpunch, the Liberty seemed to land two. But Clark was loading something fierce. Each trip she probed, read, and stored the patterns Cloud's zone press revealed. When the quarter horn sounded, the Liberty owned the lead. Social feeds buzzed about Cloud's takeover, and Clark's stat line, 8 assists, 3 highlight passes, 0 fear, hinted at a plot twist on the horizon. And the moment she uncorked it, an entire arena would feel the floor shake. Section 6, Third Quarter Resurrection. When the rim finally listened, something cracked open 3 minutes after halftime, and it wasn't the backboard. It was Caitlin Clark's patience. She'd bricked 12 straight from deep, but kept carving the defense, finding Lexi Hull in the corner, then whipping her 10th assist to Kelsey Mitchell for a tie-breaking 3. Still, New York kept jabbing. Cloud blitzed coast to coast, Sabrina powered through contact, and Jonquel Jones muscled home another fade. Indiana teetered, down 9. Then Clark stopped thinking and started swinging. She drove straight at 3 Jersey walls, spun under the rim, and kissed in a reverse layup that rattled loose every doubt. Next trip, she rose beyond the arc, heard the whistle mid-flight, and watched the ball finally obey. Swish, foul, 4-point play. The arena detonated. And before the cheers could settle, she crossed half court, stepped back on Cloud from the logo, and drilled a dagger as the buzzer screamed. 12 minutes earlier, she'd looked ice cold. Now she stalked to the bench with 8 straight points, an 8-point lead, and a glare that said, "We're not done yet." But the Liberty had one last storm to hurl, and the final quarter would decide whose will broke first. Final frame, thriller, and controversy. The fourth began like a dream for Indiana. Aaliyah Boston snared an offensive board, found Natasha Howard under the rim, and the lead ballooned to 10. But dreams flip fast in this league. Natasha Cloud barreled coast to coast for a layup, ripped the ball away on the very next play, and threaded a bounce pass that Brianna Stewart kissed off glass. Momentum spun on its head. Then Jonquel Jones lit the fuse. Deep 3, pick and pop 3, 24 points and counting. Sabrina took the wheel, slithered into mid-range, and splashed the jumper that nudged New York back in front. Tie, lead, tie again. Every possession felt like borrowed oxygen. With 30 seconds left, Boston bullied her way to the stripe and knotted it at 88. 7 ticks later, Sabrina attacked the lane, drew the whistle, and iced both free throws. Liberty by 2, 90-88. Indiana burned its final timeout. 3 seconds on the clock, 1 play for immortality. Clark caught the inbound at the logo, jabbed, rose, and felt Cloud's arm brush her hip. No whistle, ball fumbled, buzzer, game. Fever players swarmed the officials, Liberty players leapt in celebration, and social feeds erupted. Clean stop or blown call. Either way, the scoreboard was sealed. They knocked her down, again, but this time the bruises came with a bitter taste of what if. Yet, as Clark walked off, chin high, the look in her eyes promised one thing. The fight is nowhere near finished. Resilience beyond the score. Headlines tomorrow will scream about a missed whistle and a 2-point heartbreaker. But history tells a longer story. 11 months ago, Clark stunned this same Liberty core with the first triple-double ever recorded by a WNBA rookie, stealing an 83-78 victory and painting a target on her jersey that still glows neon today. Tonight, that target drew elbows, hip checks, and, depending on which replay you trust, a no call that sealed New York's 90-88 escape. Yet every time Clark hit the hardwood, she rose faster, fired farther, and turned bruises into fuel. 10 assists before halftime, a 4-point play to end her shooting drought, a logo bomb that flipped a 9-point deficit into an 8-point lead. Her stat line may live in the box score, but her defiance carved the highlight reel. The lesson? You can knock her down, you can swallow your whistle, but you can't mute the echo of a rivalry that now spans viral collisions, record-breaking nights, and unfinished business. The Eastern Conference isn't just jockeying for playoff seeds anymore, it's bracing for the next Fever Liberty collision, where every screen, shove, and sideline inbound feels like a sequel begging to be written. So when the buzzer cuts to silence and the scoreboard dims, remember the wall is still standing, but Caitlin Clark is too. And if tonight proved anything, it's that the harder you hit her, the louder the answer comes back. What comes next? Sparks, scrutiny, and a date circled in red. The league office is already combing through film, deciding if Cloud's hip check merits a flagrant upgrade or if the final no call deserves a quiet apology. Beat writers whisper about fines, while ticket prices for the August 18th rematch in Indianapolis have spiked 42% overnight. Rumor even hints at a Liberty front office move, eyeing another perimeter stopper before the trade window slams shut. Yet beneath the headlines, one truth hums louder than any sanction. The Fever Liberty feud has become the marquee storyline of the season. Caitlin Clark is still standing, the wall still shaking, and every fan in the Eastern Conference knows exactly where they'll be when these two collide again. Because when rivalry turns personal, when bruises linger longer than the final score, every fresh tip-off feels like destiny looking for its next viral clip. So ask yourself, was tonight just a thriller, or the first chapter of a rivalry that could define an era? The clock's already ticking toward round 2, and something tells me the next collision will echo even louder.